Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today you are going to learn about a business that's been in Hampton 60 years, but you've probably never heard of them. My guest is John Abrams from AMA. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Robin. Thanks for having me.
You know, there are a lot of defense and NASA contractors out there operating in Hampton, but because most of us don't interact with them, we don't always know you're there.
Yep.
So tell us what AMA stands for and what you do.
Sure. Well, the acronym is Analytical Mechanics Associates. As you mentioned, we've been in business 60 years. The name company is a little different back then, but that's what AMA stands for.
But you don't really use it as, you don't really use the full spelled out version as
Sometimes
much.
we do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of AMAs. If you Google it, you're probably going to come up
American
with the
Management Association.
Medical Association. There's lots. So yeah, we do have
right.
to,
That's
have to
true.
spell it out. Yeah.
So you started, and not you personally, because 60 years ago, I'm pretty sure you weren't in that role.
I was not.
The company started as what?
So the company started small, like any small business, and we are a small business to this day by federal standards,
yeah.
if you will, for doing research and development, and that's mostly what we do. But the company started with just a few folks, mostly doing guidance, navigation, control for NASA, and they were able to win some contracts at the time. The company kind of ebbed and flowed and grew a little bit, shrank a little bit over the years until the current ownership took over in 1997, where it was a relatively small organization. But we have grown quite a bit since then, especially in this area where we're over 650 employees now.
Holy cow.
I know that sounds large by some standards, but
right.
in terms of aerospace, that's actually a small business, and we love to maintain that small business culture.
Yeah, and in terms of being a government contractor, you need a certain amount of people. You're doing very scientific, intense, and also engineering work. So
yes.
Deciding if something works or testing it or reproducing it or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
I'm showing my ignorance here.
No problem. We do research, we do science, we do engineering. Those have a lot of overlap, and it's mostly for NASA, and it's mostly for Langley right here in Hampton. We have across the company, over 300 different projects we work on.
Wow.
So there's a ton of breadth and capability that all the employees have to have in order to accomplish that type of work.
And many of them, where is your headquarters located?
Headquarters right here.
Okay.
5 minutes away.
All right.
Yeah.
But the bulk of your employees don't sit in an office at your headquarters. A lot of them work on site.
They work on site at NASA centers, and we have at AMA, between us and our partners, we have over 400 to 500, I think, that are sitting on site at Langley.
Wow. So what does that do for the government? It enables them to kind of ebb and flow, as you said before, in terms of what work is necessary. And you guys can remain a little bit more nimble because you're small.
Yeah, there's lots of philosophies of how and why the federal government does execute the work they do, but a lot of it is subcontracted work, not just to like the Boeings and the Lockheeds of the world that are developing full flight systems. It also contracting to people that sit on site that help deal with the dynamic nature and the ebbs and flows of the work. And from my personal point of view, when it's competitive like that and you bring in small business, it can add a lot of innovation to what they're doing.
And what are some NASA projects, NASA Langley projects that you all are working now? And try to say them so that I understand.
Sure, no problem. So if there's a project that Langley's working on, there's a pretty high likelihood that we're working on it. So a big one that was recently in the news, time scales in aerospace can be a little bit longer. This was last year, end of last year. It was called IRVI. It was a hypersonic inflatable decelerator. So it is a test system that basically inflates kind of a conical a balloon, if you will, in space so that it rapidly changes the cross-sectional area. So it's an entry system. So it slows down the system and is able to take the high heat rates for that system, but it was new. So it was a test it was a test campaign, if you will. It landed. I think it met all of its objectives, and it was very successful. So we worked on the structures, the controls, some of the electronics, some of the mission concepts and the architectural development of that system that I think was in development for over 15 years. So that's just one example, but literally we work on hundreds of various projects across Langley.
And what other contracts do you have besides Langley?
Yeah, so we're mostly NASA. We're probably 95% NASA, although we do a little bit of defense work, and we do some commercial work here and there. But within NASA, we're at Langley. We're at NASA Ames. We do work at Marshall. We do work at Johnson Space Center in Houston. Do a little bit of work with Glenn. So we're kind of spread out across the country.
Yeah, you are.
I travel a lot, hence, across all 4 time zones.
So this is a really tricky thing. How do you manage employees when they work somewhere else? I mean, how do they stay as a unit, stay identified with your company instead of where they're physically working? Yeah,
well, like any other company in this day and age, post-pandemic, we adopt technology, and I think we're very well connected. I think we were a very early adopter of telecommunication technology in order to just stay connected. So we did this, pre-pandemic. We're doing it a lot post-pandemic. But I always like the personal touch, and hence I'm traveling around a lot. I'm here every week, a week almost every month. And so just having those connections with employees and be able to talk to them firsthand. And frankly, what I like to do, I am an engineer by background, and I think I have a pretty broad base of what I've done in my career. So frankly, I like to nerd out with employees, and I think they do too.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And that also stimulates, new ideas or new concepts, or you kind of talk things through about how to go about things.
Absolutely. I think that almost all new innovative ideas come from just organic conversations, not because you pre-planned, hey, let's sit down, have this meeting and come up with this new idea. It's much more organic and flows naturally from those conversations.
And your company also gives back to the Hampton community. Tell us
absolutely.
About some of that.
We try to. We are, most of our workforce here comes from local universities. So we're trying to stay connected and build that pipeline with local universities. But we're very interested in STEM education, throughout anybody's upbringing, including at the high school and even earlier levels. Recently, we had a fundraiser. It was just a golf outing. It was our second annual, just a month ago, back in September. And I believe it's successful, and we're hoping we will give a check to the Hampton Education Fund here on Saturday.
That's great. And that fund helps, I'm just going to remind people, helps teachers with expenses or to try new creative ideas that require money. And it's all local. It's all our Hampton teachers.
Absolutely. And, for any teacher, I think it's not just about the funding, but we are, myself and multiple others really have a passion for producing STEM, invigorating STEM, if you will. I mean, some of my fondest memories, I have some teacher friends, is just going in the classroom and be able to talk to, 8th graders, high school, any level. And so we have a lot of people like that can help make the connections, help hopefully inspire the next generation of engineers, scientists, technology leaders.
And I mean, obviously that's changing, but that field has been dominated by particularly white men for so long.
It has.
And getting women and people of color into that pipeline is hugely important because you need more people. It's a growing field, right?
Yeah, DAIA is very important.
Tell people acronyms. We have to spell those out.
Acronyms. In my business, there's acronyms everywhere. It's acronyms
I know,
too.
it's hard.
But DAIA stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. And so just focus on the D, diversity. I think you need to have very specific and deliberate tactical methods to reach out and build the pool of potential students or candidates, employees that you can pull into this type of work. I think it absolutely helps in producing a better product. I think if anything that you do in any part of your life, if you get a diversity of ideas, at the end of the day, the best ideas are going to trickle up. And in so much, to get the best diversity of ideas, you need the best diversity of people.
Right. People with
Simple as
different
that.
experiences, different backgrounds, different generations.
Absolutely.
I think like people my age far too often.
Yeah, it comes from anywhere, all backgrounds, different locations, socioeconomic status. Whatever it is, there is a real importance to this, and we're trying to put meaningful tactics together to push that forward.
That's great. Well, what else do you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
Oh my gosh. So what I would say is that, we've been here for a while. I know our name is weird, and not a lot of people might know about us, but we're always looking to grow and push and see what we can do within the community and support NASA Langley. So people look us up, check us out, and maybe we have an opportunity for them.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for watching. I know I have learned a lot, and I tend to consider myself pretty well piped in, so I think this has probably been educational for all of us. Again, thanks for watching.